It's the holiday season, and while your mind may be focused on others, we want to help you put more money in your wallet and boost your wellness. Keep listening to find out how. Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Minded MD podcast with your money best friends. I'm Dr. Alicia Taylor.
And I'm Dr. Brittany Halford.
And of course, we're here to help you build wealth and make good money decisions so you can create the life you desire with more control over your time.
Hey, Alicia, one of the most important financial tasks we do as doctors is protect ourselves, which means getting the right insurance. I recall purchasing my insurance policy just a few days before I graduated from residency. What was your experience?
So I got my insurance when I graduated from medical school right before I started residency. I actually called a few agents, but I had the best service from Pradeep Auto at PKA Insurance Group. He was super responsive and personable. Unlike some of the other agents, Pradeep actually got me quotes from all the major companies and actually took the time to explain the nuances in each of their policies. What I love most is that he wasn't just this way for me. Whenever I would send one of my friends to him, he would not only speak to them, but he'd also let them know where to go or who to contact if there were better options or discounts available.
At PKA Insurance Group, Pradeep Auto and Matthew Peterson are independent brokers focusing on disability and life insurance. They excel in securing coverage for physicians and other medical professionals. Discounts on disability insurance can range from 10 to 40% depending on your situation. And there is now an A-plus rated carrier offering up to $10 million of life insurance without lapse. If you are very healthy with limited to no medical issues, approval is likely in 5 minutes. Reach out to PKA Insurance to discuss your disability or life insurance needs at www.pkainsurance.com or call 1-800-258-1018.
All right, let's open this podcast episode up with our Life is Lifing segment. And Alicia, I am just still so energized from our masterclasses that we hosted last week. We talked about negotiation and creating a side gig. The comments were on fire. We were making connections. People were sharing how they want to negotiate, what type of life they want to create, all of the benefits of side hustles. And I just am so excited still from all of the energy.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really nice being able to connect with people that listen to our show because one of the things that I miss is that sometimes we can't really, or it's difficult to really get that constant feedback and that connection. You and I are talking and we think we're doing a good job. We got some good reviews, but sometimes it's hard to really know for sure. And so having an opportunity to really connect with people and also teach, you and I share that in common that we really love to teach and help other women in medicine with lots of different things. And so getting the opportunity to help them with, I think, two things that we don't talk about enough, which is how can we negotiate, right, to make more money at our jobs? And then how can we create profitable side gigs to make more money outside of our job? And of course, the purpose of that is that when you are able to make more money doing what you already do and can also establish additional streams of revenue doing things outside of medicine, it just gives you so many more options, right? You have the opportunity to cut back in medicine if you want to. You have the opportunity to sort of add something new and different to your life that can sometimes energize you depending on what that side gig might be. I talked about this before. I work better when I'm paid well. And so when I can make sure that I am paid well, I am a happier person going to work. I'm saying hey and good morning to all the staff, right? I'm bringing donuts on Fridays. It's amazing how that raise can really change the mood. And I'm sure I am not the only one. And so it was just an incredible experience that I really, really did enjoy.
Yeah. And so if you are listening to this episode, you're like, oh, I missed it. We have another opportunity for you. So we are going to do our side gig masterclass again on January 7th. So we want to teach you how to boost your pay and cut your taxes. And Alicia, it's just really so interesting how much people feel the burden of their taxes. So we want to help you alleviate that burden by giving you some very specific strategies that you can employ to decrease your taxes. It's going to be the start of the new year. So that means new year, new tax season, new opportunities. And we want you to be present so that you can get that feedback. You can give us your feedback and get your questions answered. Just click the link in our show notes to sign up for the masterclass.
Yep. Once again, that's going to be Tuesday, January 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're like, Brittany, Leisha, I'm busy. It's holiday season. I can't be, I got 20 million holiday parties to attend. We get it. We do too, because we're fun people. People invite us places too. We're going to let this year, in. We're going to let you spend some time with your family, but then tune in with us live on Zoom Tuesday, January 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, we'll put the registration link in the show notes. And again, it's going to be free, so don't worry about that. But we can't wait for you to join us. So join us Tuesday, January 7th.
All right. So, Leisha, around this time, I find that life is busy. And when my life is busy, I tend to make a few more mistakes. I think just because my brain is just clouded with all the things that I have to do. So, I think I'm going to shield myself from this episode of sharing all my money mishaps. And I want to dive into your wallet. What money mishaps and confessions do you have for us today?
Okay, so I see what you're doing there, trying to put it on me. That's okay. I will be humble, open, and transparent today. Okay, I'm gonna be humble, open, and transparent. So, in the spirit of that, I am actually actively thinking about restructuring my life. I'm faculty, School of Medicine here in Atlanta, and I really love that job. I wear a lot of different hats, which I really do find enjoyable. But then I've also mentioned before that I work part-time at an urgent care, and I did that for several different reasons. Urgent care is a different kind of medicine than I practice on a day-to-day basis. I'm a primary care sports medicine physician. It's my day job. And although I do precept some of the family medicine residents, it's still a little bit different. And so I liked being reminded of how to do things, or not reminded of how to do things, but just being able to practice a skill set that I don't normally practice. And let's be honest, I also liked the flexibility and the added revenue. Okay. It's holiday season. And so one of the things that I love doing is just working a shift at the urgent care and just knowing that I had extra income coming in that I could spend on holiday gifts or that I could spend on a vacation. And so that was sort of the impetus behind it. Initially, when I started doing it, I told myself I was only going to do like 1 or 2 shifts a month, nothing too crazy, just for some added revenue. But I have learned that about myself, that it's hard for me to say no. It's hard for me to say no to what I view as quote unquote easy money, right? And so what has happened is that the administrators at the urgent care would text me and be like, Leisha, can you come in today? Leisha, can you come in today? And it's a Saturday that initially maybe I was going to hang out with my nephews or maybe I was going to hang out with my friends. And I'll say, okay, I'll come in for like 4 or 5 hours, right, in the morning. But what happens is I'm tired when I get off work. And so then I have less time and less energy to spend with my family, to spend with my friends, to basically invest in my own personal life. And it's so funny because I was having a conversation with one of my friends a few days ago about this. And it's so funny because he was like, Leisha, is it worth it? I get that you're doing it for the money. And I know that you're a financial minded person. And so I understand that part of it. But if you say you want to eventually have children, if you say that you want to spend more time with your family, that family is really important to you, that your friends are really important to you, then maybe that means carving out space for them. And maybe that means not trying to reach every single financial goal tomorrow and giving yourself a little bit more grace to take a little bit more time to meet those goals so that you can enjoy your life more along the way. So that was a really revelatory conversation. And it has really got me thinking that maybe I should work less and maybe I should pull back and that sort of thing. So I'm going to shift this over to you, Brittany. What do you think? What do you think I should do? Be my therapist for me right now. Help me out here.
Well, I wanted to just say that I'm very appreciative that you were able to have that conversation with other people and being willing and open to accept that advice because it's probably unsolicited. I don't know, maybe it was solicited, but unsolicited. Sometimes when people are giving us unsolicited advice, we can be very defensive and we can put barriers or blocks and deflect the information that's being provided to us. But I just want to say thank you for listening. I think that oftentimes people can see some things that we don't see because we're so focused on the goal and they can see kind of the forest for the trees. I would say that if you're feeling tired and you're unable to accomplish everything, then maybe this is a moment of pause to say, what is it that I really want? And is the value of the money greater than the value of all the other things that you're missing out? Because every decision has an opportunity cost. And it's not always money that is the currency that we're exchanging. There are other exchanges and other forms of currency. So if you really want to hang out with your friends or if you really want to go out with family and you don't have the energy to do so after a shift, then really limit yourself to just the 1 or 2 shifts and protect that time so that you're not also sacrificing relationships by canceling last minute. I hate when people cancel on me last minute, especially if you have nieces and nephews. As a mother, I see the impact of how Brooke specifically get so excited for when people are coming over. You know, my best friend, Lauren, she came to Boston to visit us, and Brooke cleaned up. She's like, oh, Auntie's Lauren here. I'm going to put on this outfit. I'm going to do this. And she had this great anticipation. My best friend's flight was a little delayed and she's so late, you know? And so I think it does have a great impact on kids. Sometimes adults can be a little bit more forgiving and understanding, but for kids, you definitely don't want to let them down. So if you don't have the time and the energy to do everything that you love, then you have to really appraise which thing are you going to love today? Is it going to be that, okay, you're going to focus on your financial goals and it's going to be the goal for today. And then next week is going to be family or friends because you want to make sure that you can have everything at the end of the day.
You know what? I love it. I love your advice. And in fact, it's advice that we were just talking about during the Side Gig Masterclass, which of course we're going to do again. But it was really interesting because sometimes I think it's easier to give advice than to take your own advice, right? And one of the things that we were talking about is the importance of having a side gig that fuels you. Because I think as physicians, it's so easy for us to work an extra shift. We know that we get paid a high rate. And so it's just easy to work another shift and make more money. But then we get on that cycle where we can start to encounter burnout, where we can start to really deplete our energy. And so the goal is, how can you establish additional streams of income in a way that fuels you instead of depletes you? And I think for me, it's focusing on streams of income that are my passions. And so it's doing this podcast with you. It is really helping other women in medicine and spending some of the time that I have doing those things, instead of saying, well, I'm just going to work a shift because it's just easy money or whatever. So this is a case of me saying, okay, Leisha, take your own advice.
And I think it's easier. At least I get these messages all the time. And I have set a threshold for when I come into work and when I do not. So if they're not increasing the pay 2 times the pay to make it worth my time, I say no. And then it's also much easier to say no when I have already committed to something. So when I've committed to volunteering at church, or when I've committed to teaching or doing something else, recording with you on this podcast, I've said no a couple of times because I'm like, oh, I got to record. So when I have another commitment, it's so much easier to say no. So I think, honoring the other commitments that you have, I'm like, oh, nope, I already got something scheduled today. That's not a working day for me. So love that. And thank you for bringing that up. I think that a lot of people in medicine have that hustle mentality and, like you said, easy money. And we forget about the opportunity cost. So thank you. That's a great money mishap to share with our audience today.
As physicians, one of the most important things that we can do is make sure that we secure our income, because a lot of our financial plans are contingent on our high doctor income. One of the things that you will need to do is make sure that you get long-term disability insurance.
Now, Pradeep and his team at PKA Insurance Group have a reputation for putting people over profits and always doing what's best. Do not hesitate to email PKA Insurance and his team today.
They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.
All right, we're going to get off me. And now we're going to go into our financial focus, which I'm so excited about today. For those who are new to our show, we try to have a financial focus where we are delving into one financial topic. And I thought it would be interesting today to really talk about this concept of investing in yourself, because I think it's a holiday season. Well, it is the holiday season. So a lot of us are really focused on other people, right? What gift am I going to get my kids or my husband or wife or spouse, significant other, family member, friends, coworker, whatever it is? We're thinking about others during this time. And that's not a bad thing. I think nice for us to think about others and to think about what we can do for them. But I think one of the things we need to be mindful of is the fact that we don't neglect ourselves. So I thought that we would kind of go over some different tips and things that you and I do to invest in ourselves. And by invest in ourselves, I mean invest in our finances, right? So we're constantly building our finances even during this month of December, and invest in our personal lives where we are putting measures in place to increase our wellness. So tips to invest in our finances, tips to invest in ourselves in terms of a personal life. So I'm ready kind of to dive in.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I love learning from you. It's really important that we see ourselves as an investment. Oftentimes I fail to do so. I've mentioned that on this podcast, like, oh, I should have taken some time for self-care, or acknowledge that my energy is also valuable while I'm caring for everyone else. You can only do that when you are pouring from a place of abundance. And so often women especially give when we don't have anything to give. We're giving from empty cups instead of overflowing into others. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Alrighty. So number one, I think, is one way to kind of invest in yourself is to remain consistent, to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, you have to make it easier to make the decision that you want to make. You have to remove any friction to doing that. And so I think from an investment standpoint, one of the things that you and I do is set up automatic investments, right? We know that we want to be consistent with our financial goals. We know that we want to be consistent building wealth. And that means investing on a regular basis. For me, it's on a monthly basis. Maybe for some other people, it's every 2 weeks or so as they get paid, but they know that they want to invest on a consistent basis. Well, I also know that sometimes it is hard for me to say no when I see something on sale, especially during this time of the year. I'm like, oh, new boots. I do need to upgrade them. Oh, a new jacket. Oh, that is given or whatever. So I'll see things in the store. I see sales. And it's kind of hard for me to be like, Alicia, you do not need a 10th jacket or your 5th pair of boots or whatever. And so one of the things to sort of keep me in check is to set these things up automatically, set these investments up automatically. So as soon as I get paid, that money is taken out automatically and goes to my brokerage account or goes to my savings account or goes to my student loan or whatever it is that I'm putting money towards. So then I know whatever's left, okay, if there's a little bit left, maybe I can splurge on a boot or a new pair of pants or whatever it is. And so it's setting things up automatically so that I can be consistent with my financial goals. So that's one of the things that I do from an investment perspective to try to stay consistent during this time.
Yeah, the consistency is so difficult, I would say. It is, especially when we think about our personal lives. And there are ways that we can make consistency in our financial lives so much easier, like you said, by automating it. And it's important that when you become consistent, the way that you get there is by evaluating where you are right now and really reflecting on how are you spending, what are your priorities, and what is that friction that Leisha talked about. It's interesting because my kids and I just went to the Museum of Science, and there was like this tilt table, and it was all about friction. And so they had different types of materials there for the kids to feel which one is bumpier, and then to tilt the table to understand which one moves further and faster. And friction is the force that it takes for you to stay still, right? The force that it takes for you to get yourself in movement. So if you think about what you're doing in your money and where you want to go, what is that friction that's holding you in place? And really trying to create a system that takes yourself out of it. Because I think that sometimes we can be our worst advocate that impacts our movement forward. So I would just say automation is key. Really being reflective on what is keeping you stagnant. Is it that you don't have the confidence? Is it that you don't have the money? And making sure that through that reflection, you can address those issues so that you can start to get moving to that.
Yeah. And I think from a personal perspective, because I'm always trying to think about not only improving my money, but improving my quality of life, improving my wellness, improving my overall well-being. And periodically, I will think about what can I do to upgrade myself? What can I do to be better? And I had decided that two of the changes that I wanted to make was I wanted to remember to actually take my vitamins, and I wanted to remember to read before bed and read right when I wake up. Reading before bed kind of helps me put myself in that state of like reflection. Also makes it easier for me to go to sleep. And then reading when I wake up reminds me that I shouldn't just wake up and go, go, go. I should wake up, pray, meditate, get myself in the right frame of mind, develop a goal for the day, that sort of thing. Just be very intentional. And so two of the changes that I make to make those happen is I take magnesium each night, and I kept forgetting to take it. And so I put the bottle of magnesium tabs right on my nightstand. So I see it right before I go to bed, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to take my magnesium today. And so that has helped me. And again, removing the barrier, right? If I kept the bottle of magnesium in the cabinet or wherever, then I wouldn't see it right when I went to bed. And so I might forget about it. And so for me, keeping that bottle right on the nightstand just helps me to remember. And then same thing with the books, right? I keep my books there. I keep my Bible there, my devotional there, journal there, whatever book I'm reading at the time will be there. And so right when I go to bed and right when I wake up, it's one of the first things that I see. And it reminds me, oh, yeah, I do need to read a few pages in the book today. Or, oh, yeah, I do want to make sure that I read my devotional or whatever, and just put myself in that frame of mind. And so my point here is that consistency is key. And in order to be consistent, you need to make it easier for you to make the right decisions. And so that means, putting the vitamins on the nightstand, putting the books on the nightstand, putting my running shoes in my bag whenever I'm going out of town, so I make it easier for me to choose to work out, whatever it is, being consistent.
Yeah. I put my running shoes in. And I did not go for a run in Chicago this time when I went on this trip this week, but I did go to the gym twice. And For me, it's like, Brittany, you brought this stuff. You had to pay to check your bag or lug this suitcase through the airport. So why not use it? And oftentimes when I struggle with being consistent, when I have a goal that I want to achieve, and I know that it takes me, like if I want to run 10 miles, it takes me running the first mile in order to get to 10 miles. However, there's a little bit of friction there. There's some difficulty getting up, running that first mile because there's a little bit of discomfort. Maybe I want to sleep more. So many other excuses or reasons not to run the mile. And instead, what helps me to be consistent is also focusing on what is the goal. And why am I running this mile? Well, Brittany, you're running the mile because you want to run 10 miles. Why do you want to run 10 miles? Because this is something that you do with your father every year. So now it's a commitment to someone else, which sometimes helps us to hold ourselves accountable and be consistent with the actions that we need to take. And then, Brittany, what are the benefits that you get from running the first mile? Oh, you feel better. You feel accomplished because you've done the thing that you need to do today. You're increasing your cardiovascular health. So all of these things. So when there are other types of pressures that limit my consistency, I try to stay focused on what is the end goal and what is my why to help me to decrease the friction and to get things going. And I know sometimes you can't always talk yourself into it, but this is one of the ways, in addition to making it easier by making it more accessible for me to do the thing, is just making sure that I remind myself of the commitment that I made to myself and others as the reason why I'm taking action.
I'm sorry. I'm stuck on 10 miles. You run 10 miles? I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. I couldn't get past it. I was like, wow. I mean, we obviously seen each other in person, even though we don't record in person. And I know that you're a little on the slimmer side. And I'm like, okay, that explains it. 10 miles, I am not doing that.
I do not run 10 miles consistently. Let me just clear that up, people. I run about 3 to 5 miles consistently.
But that's still a lot. You know how people just heard that and said, excuse me, that's not my life. Segue. I was on Instagram scrolling and I saw this meme from somebody that says, Lord, let me never marry into a family that wakes up early on the holidays to go run a 5K. He was like, that is not the kind of family I want to run into. And so when you said that you and your father go run 10 miles, I was like, wow, me and my dad do a lot of things together, but it's probably more around eating than working out. So that is funny. People heard us on this podcast. They would think that you're the sports doc, Miss I run 10 miles. Wow. I run a couple miles and then my body starts hurting and I'm like, why am I doing this? I am no longer in college. I am not racing. I am not a professional athlete. I'm good. I'm a stop.
Yeah. Again, I remind myself, honestly, I love running and I'm not an athlete, so I could never play basketball. I know you play basketball. I know you did track and you rowed. I could do track, but that's like the only thing that I could do. And then cheerleading. And I also was a dancer, but running just does something for me. Even though my body hurts, like, oh, my body is hurting because I did this thing. That's the pain. It's like no pain, no gain type of thing. So, oh, the next time I run, it's going to be even better. And then I'm going to get faster and then I'm going to be able to run farther. I just try to psych my mind. I wholeheartedly believe that our minds are the most powerful muscles that we have. And if we can only perceive it and believe it, then we can put ourselves in action and achieve what we desire, even if it hasn't been done before. And so I just try to focus on that, I guess.
Well, we appreciate your running tips. I need it too. I used to tell my athletes, it's so funny. I tell my athletes, the person who usually wins the race is the person who can deal with the most discomfort the longest. And so I appreciate you reminding me of that. I still don't know if I'm going to go out and run 10 miles, but you know what? I get the sentiment. Moving along, the next way that we can invest in ourselves is remembering that we're in it for the long term, right? Remembering what the end goal is and making a pact with ourselves to do one thing to progress forward each day, each week, each month, right? How can we steady progress towards the goal that we set? How can we remember our long-term vision and continue to work towards that? And so for me, in the investing realm, it means reminding myself of my own financial plan and not being swayed by the financial plans and the financial behaviors of other people. And that's really come to a head because my oldest brother is like super into Bitcoin. It's so funny. I saw him last weekend and he's like in a good mood. Alicia, I'm good. I'm like, why are you so giddy today? It's like, my Bitcoin went up. And I was like, how many coins do you have? It's like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And I'm like, oh my Lord. But it's funny because my brother, some of his friends, they're always like, Alicia, see, I told you, you should have gotten Bitcoin. It's going to the moon. And I'm like, y'all, you know what? One of the cool things about being a doctor is that I make a good enough income where I don't have to take risks like that. I can just invest steadily in my index funds. Yeah, it may be boring, but I'm going to keep on track because I know that I'm going to reach my goals if I do this, right? I'm not going to be swayed by other people, whether it's people trying to convince me to buy a bunch of Bitcoin or people trying to get me to invest in real estate in all these different markets. It's like, you know what? I'm going to stick to my own financial plan and I'm not going to be swayed by all of these other things.
I think that is hilarious. One, that you all have that conversation and that little bickering between your siblings. I really enjoy when it can be, you can have that sibling rivalry or discourse and really make it fun. I miss that with my siblings because they're far and we don't talk as often. And one of the things that you talk about as far as like not trying to jump on anybody's bandwagon, like you doing your thing, I'm good. Like I'm running this race. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what I tell my kids all the time. And as you talk about seeing something on Instagram, I also saw this race. I watched the video. I don't know, this video must be like 3 minutes. Just the entire video. You know, they say people on Instagram have a short attention span. Clearly not me because I watched this entire video. But let me tell you about the video. It was a tortoise and there was a rabbit. And so they like made different lanes. It was the end of the race, beginning and the end of the race. And so they put the turtle down and they put the rabbit down. And the rabbit started out hopping much faster than the tortoise. But then it got distracted because everybody's like, yeah, go, Randy, go. And so the rabbit's looking around, it's getting distracted. And guess who won? The tortoise won, people. So just remember your long-term goals. Do not get distracted by what everybody else is doing. Run your race. And that is really important, especially as we think about investing in the stock market, because you will hear the media, oh, stocks are up, this is down. It doesn't matter. You just put the blinders on. Okay, this is the goal. I know by implementing these strategies, investing in low cost index funds for the long term, having a moderately diversified portfolio so that you're not putting all of your eggs in one single basket, that is the goal. That is the strategy. And once you get there, you know that strategy is going to deliver on that goal. So I say stay focused. And honestly, we do a lot of the investing ourselves as well. And I don't even monitor it all the time. Like I go in maybe 3 times a year, make sure that things look like they're doing okay. If I need to adjust anything, then I will. But otherwise, I really don't change anything. You know, you set a schedule for rebalancing and then you leave it. That's my strategy. It makes things a little bit easier for me.
That is normally my strategy. I want to be honest and say that, shortly after the election, regardless of who you voted for and how you felt about the election, it's so funny. I walked into to work. Was it that week or maybe it was the week after? I can't remember. And it's so funny because a lot of the doctors know that I'm into finance and they were like, hey, Dr. Taylor. I was a little depressed earlier. And then I saw my 401k. I might be able to retire a little sooner. They were just so happy that the 401k went up. And one of the older gentlemen, he's like, I've already said to me with my financial advisor, I might be out of here sooner than you think. And I'm like, first of all, don't you like working with me? Second of all, let's try not to get too high or too low, regardless of what's going on. Let's stay steady and consistent. But it just reminded me of that when you're talking about how you don't check yours and how based on what's been happening, I have been checking mine just because I've been hearing a lot about it from my coworkers. It's so funny. But I think from a personal standpoint, as we're staying on track here, one way to keep the big picture in mind and to stay consistent and to stay focused is to create accountability. We talked about before how you need to make it easier to make the decision that you want to make. And now we're talking about how creating accountability can make it easier for you to stay focused. And so I know for people trying to stay consistent when it comes to working out, maybe they will pay for a personal trainer. Could they go on the treadmill on their own? Sure. But could they see better progress, better gains, and remain consistent if they had a personal trainer? Yes. And so that might be one of the reasons why they hire that trainer. When it comes to you and I, we have our Boost coaching program, right? That helps people learn to negotiate so they can make more money at their job and establish side gigs and different streams of income so that they can make more money outside of their job. Are these things that they may be able to learn on their own over time? Sure. But maybe they wouldn't learn them as effectively. Maybe they wouldn't have as much success, or maybe it would just take too much time. And so again, investing in yourself also means maybe paying for help and getting some accountability that can keep you on track and just ensure that you're reaching your goals in the time frame and the manner that you want to.
I wholeheartedly agree with all those things. And it also makes me think about your energy. And I know that that's one of our next tips on how to invest in yourself is really focusing on your energy. And when you find that accountability partner, at least for me, it takes the load off. Like when I've paid for a personal trainer, it has provided me a lot of mental ease that now somebody else is thinking about me, not just prescribing me just whatever type of regimen that everybody else is going to use, but they're really thinking about Brittany specifically, my body, my goals, and what I tend to do. When I had a personal trainer, I did not have to do any research about, oh, what's the best way to do this exercise or to create my own plan. I knew that somebody had it done for me, and all I had to do was literally show up. And because they were thinking about me, because they had crafted out the exercises that I needed to do that day, that I was going to achieve my goal a lot faster instead of making mistakes running around and not doing the things that I needed to do. So I always think about that, Leisha, when I'm like, what hard is this thing to do? Is it possible that I could do it on my own? Usually, that's a yes, because I like to think that I'm a smart girl and that I can do many things and I can figure it out. I mean, if I could do medicine and take care of patients, I could do everything. And that's just what I feel about myself. Yes, okay, I could do this thing. I could potentially figure this out because I'm a smart girl. But how much time and energy would I have to put into it in order to achieve maybe a less result than if I were to pay someone to help me to do it? And I say help me because even when I go to a personal trainer, they can't give me my body the way, like they can't build my six pack. I still have to put in some work, but they are helping me to achieve that goal faster. Even when I hired a tax strategist, she is helping me to reduce how much taxes we owe. But I still have to implement that strategy. And I still have to be thoughtful and mindful of all the things that I've learned up until that point so that we can have a conversation and make sure that they are guiding me correctly. But it just takes the load off, the mental load and also the physical load by investing in my energy and preserving my energy.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love what you said about how when you hire help, they not only do the thing that you're hiring them for, but they ease the mental burden of you having to fit it into your own schedule. And I think that is probably the benefit that I have overlooked the most when it comes to hiring help. I'm like, oh, well, do I really want to hire somebody to clean my house? I can clean my house. But see, the thing is, if I'm cleaning my house, now I've got to figure, okay, well, what day am I going to clean it? Because I've got to work here and I got to be here and I got to do this. So if I'm cleaning my house this morning, then that means that it's going to take me a little bit longer to do this other thing. And if it takes me longer to do that other thing, then I can't do this other thing. And now I've got to figure, okay, from 9 to 10, I'm doing this and pretend it. And so all of that mental energy goes away when I've decided I'm going to outsource this. And I'm saying this because I think that for me, at least, it made me feel a little guilty because I think for so long in my life, I've been on this money saving journey. How can I be as frugal as possible? And most people who are frugal are thinking about how can I not pay for things, right? If something is broken, maybe I could fix it myself. If something needs to be cleaned, maybe I can clean it myself. If something needs to be done, I'm going to do it myself and I'm going to avoid paying for things. But then you get to a certain level that I think you and I are at, and a lot of people listening to this podcast are at, where you have to transition mind frames and saying, I'm going to be as frugal as possible to saying, now I'm going to be as strategic as possible. And saying, maybe it does make sense now for me to pay for this thing because now it gives me more free time to do the things that I really enjoy. And now I'm able to improve my wellness. Now I'm able to improve my quality of life. And so I think I mentioned this before, but that has been one of the more difficult transitions because I've had to be in this frugal cost saving mind frame for so long. And now I'm realizing that if I really want to get to the next level in my business, in my personal life, in my professional life, that I've got to create more time. And creating more time means outsourcing some of those other tasks.
Definitely. And when we think about your finances and what this means, I think about it in a couple of ways because there is definitely a place for DIY. I'm frugal Franny too. I think there's definitely a place for DIY. And I also think that when we make these decisions, whether to pay someone to do it for us or to do it ourselves, it needs to come from a place of reflection of where do I want to put my energy? What is going to be my return on that investment? And what is the outcome that I am achieving from taking a DIY approach or a paying someone approach? And so, how I like to think about it in my finances is okay, I am paying a financial advisor 1% of assets under management for what outcome? And I want to see, I want to ask them, hey, what are you going to give me in return for this? Like, well, can you show me how your portfolio perform? And of course, past performance does not guarantee future performance, but at least you can understand their approach to investing and say, okay, there is a possibility that I could get the same result versus what is it if I'm doing it myself? And what could I get if I were doing it myself? And honestly, when it comes to investing, unless it's like a complicated account that they have to coordinate with somebody else to do it, then I typically do it myself. And how I think about this is based upon evidence. So there is a SPIVO report that is produced. I don't know if it's every year or if it's every 2 years, but basically it's a comparison of investing your money in the S&P 500 and the performance that you would get, the output that you would get from investing just in the S&P versus giving your money to an active manager who is going to invest that money for you and taking more of a like a passive approach versus an active paying somebody approach. And when you look at those SPIVO reports, what you can see is that the performance is about the same except for a couple of circumstances. So there's outperformance when the economy is doing well for those who are just investing in the S&P 500 and investing passively in low-cost index funds. Like by doing that, that you're going to outperform the active managers. The time where active managers really come into play and outperform just a little bit, like it's just a couple of percentage points, is when there's a little bit of economic disturbance. So looking at that data is like, okay, if I do it myself, there's a higher likelihood that I'm going to get more money and have better outcome. And even if I were to pay somebody, their performance is not going to be better than me still doing it myself. And then on the back end, I get to build my confidence and I get to keep more of my money. So I give all of that backstory to say that preserving your energy sometimes takes a little bit of thought, like Leisha said, of what are you getting in return? And you have to think about the cost of that decision if you're going to pay someone or if you're going to do it yourself. And I think that there are ways in which you can make that calculation and work out for you both ways. And there are times in which I actually do it myself, especially when I think about my finances.
I love that point, and I'm so glad that you brought it up because I think this is a perfect opportunity for nuance, right? When it comes to my personal life, I'm learning I need to outsource more things to create more time and more energy. But when it comes to my investing life, as you mentioned, hey, maybe it makes sense for me to actually do this thing myself. You know, I heard Jim Dolly say one time, one of the highest paying side gigs anyone could have is learning how to manage their own finances, because the amount of money that you end up paying over time to a financial advisor tends to be multiple six figures. And so if you can just learn how to do things yourself, you will save so much more money on the back end. And I love that SPIVO report that you mentioned, because if you talk to financial advisors, what they'll say is, hey, the study showed that a financial advisor is going to save the average person 3% returns per year. But when you really look at, well, why is that? Why are some financial advisors saying that they're going to save me on average 3% per year? Well, what they're looking at is the fact that the average person gets very scared and very nervous when it comes to market downturns. And so they tend to pull money out of the market. But having a financial advisor gives them the confidence to stay invested. And so they're less likely to move things around and screw things up. And so that's how the financial advisor saves them money. It's similar to the report that you mentioned, right? When the economy is doing well, you investing money in a passive index fund, you're going to outperform most of these active fund managers, especially when you factor in all the fees you're paying the active fund managers. It's during the downturn that the rubber hits the road. If you can stay steady invested, you'll be just fine. If you're somebody who's going to pull your money out and get freaked out, then maybe you do need somebody who can keep you on track and keep you accountable. So it really depends on what kind of personality type you are and how you're going to react in those downturns. But I love what you said, that the point isn't just to outsource everything or do everything yourself. We've reached a point in our lives where we have to be strategic and say, okay, which things am I going to do myself and which things am I going to outsource? And looking at, like you said, the return on investment there.
Leisha, I think we should do a whole episode of SPIVO report
Oh
and and like
gosh.
when advisors, because I had a conversation with an advisor, I think I mentioned this in like one of the previous episodes. He's arguing with me, not arguing, we're kind of going back and forth a
Yeah.
little bit. I said, be graceful. And so he sent me this article for me to read. And of course, I read it and I read the details. So, that's one of the things that I love that I think we learned in medicine is like how to really appraise the research,
Yeah.
not just take the outcome. I was like, oh, okay, here is where it could be helpful. And it's for that reason, it's the behavioral piece. Right. But if you can learn the behavior that are going to lead to the results, being consistent, making it easy, being focused on your goal and sticking with it. And anyhow, that's a whole thing. So we should talk about those articles and a couple of other articles, bringing the evidence to the people so that you can feel confident investing in yourself and feel confident in making these decisions. And whatever decision, just know that, okay, this is a decision that I make today based upon the evidence that I have, based upon the expertise that I have today. And also give yourself permission to make a different decision. Because at one point in my life, I had made a decision to pay an advisor. And I have also changed that decision as I built this confidence in doing so. And one of the things that I love about coaching is just helping women along to understand that this actually is possible for you because of here's the evidence. So this is why you can do it yourself. And that's one of the things that I love about our Boost program, right? Is it helps people to be confident that, yeah, you can be a business owner. You can negotiate. And here is why. When you do these things, you can do it well. You can feel like you're not being slimy or gimmicky or guilty. And here's the outcome based in evidence. And I really love that, we are women who know the evidence, who know the approaches that really work, and we can help people to get there faster, to preserve their energy, and to invest in themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. I think another tip for us of how we can invest in ourselves both financially and personally is to remember the principle of diversification and not putting all of our eggs into one basket. And from an investing perspective, of course, that means not just buying one stock or a few stocks that we know. Instead, investing in broad, diversity-based index funds. It could also mean maybe switching it up and not just doing only stocks, maybe adding some bonds in there, maybe adding a little bit of real estate. Diversification is key so that if something doesn't do well or tanks or doesn't work out, you've got something else to cushion the blow. You've got other investments there. From a personal perspective, it goes right along the lines of what you were just talking about, Brittany, and establishing other streams of income. Because one of the things that I hear so much from physicians especially is, Alicia, I want to cut back in medicine, but I don't think that I have the money to do so. Working as a physician is my only stream of income. I'm the breadwinner of my family. My family is very dependent on this. We've got expenses that we need to pay. We've got financial goals we need to hit. And so I can't afford to cut back right now. And I can certainly understand that sentiment. But one of my, things that I always respond with is, okay, but maybe there's another way that we can go about this. Instead of saying, I can't cut back in medicine because I need to make money, maybe we should say, how else can I make money so that I can cut back in medicine? So I think sometimes when we ask ourselves, how can I make this work? Instead of saying, I can't make this work, it just opens our mind to new possibilities. And I use this little side nugget here in the negotiation table, because I find that if you're asking for something that the other person wasn't initially trying to give you, they can be defensive. They can come across like, whoa, why would you even ask for that? Like, nobody else in the department gets paid this much in XYZ. So one of the strategies and the tips that I always tell people and that I employ myself is to try to invoke the principle of collaboration. Instead of giving them the chance to say no to what you're asking or proposing, ask how they can make something work, because it shifts your mind frame and it makes you go into problem solving mode and say, how can I establish another stream of income? How can I afford to pay this employee a little bit more? How can I get the money for this task or this goal or that task or that goal? And so I think that this works a lot in our personal lives. How can I bring in other streams of revenue so that I can cut back in medicine? And of course, we help people learn to do that in our group coaching program. But I think just it requires some reflection of how can I make this work? How can I make things different? How can I be diverse, not only in my investments, but also in the way that I make money?
I love the questioning of how. I agree that when you ask how, it makes it seem like something that is possible. And when you believe that it is possible, then your mind will create a pathway to get there. And I think diversification not only helps to provide mental ease with your investments, like, oh, Apple lost so much in their revenue and the price of the shares have decreased. Instead of worrying specifically about this one business, if you are invested very broadly. Of course, when we say very broadly, we don't want it to be absurdly broad that you now have to manage all of these things and it becomes too complicated. But when you are invested more broadly, then it provides mental ease that you're not dependent on just one company to do well for your investment portfolio to succeed. And that same mental ease of not just relying on one investment strategy also goes to your income strategy. When you don't have to just rely on one specific single stream of income, then how much more freedom do you have? And that has really afforded us so much freedom that because of the streams of income, and I know we're going to get in that in our next episode, so make sure you listen to the next episode where we're going to dive into the various streams of income. But because we have diversification in our income streams, at any point, I can scale up or scale down. It gives me the freedom to choose what I want to do. It gives me the freedom to also allocate my time based upon the energy and the circumstances of my life. But if I did not have those income streams established, it would take much more time, energy for me to ramp it up or scale it down. And I think that this is one of the failures that many people in medicine have, is because we've been so focused on being physicians. I wanted to be a doctor since I was 7 years old. I've been focused on becoming a doctor. And I know many of us are, and that a lot of us are committed to academia. And so we don't even conceive that another job stream of income is possible because we've accomplished the goal. I'm a doctor. I'm going to do the thing. This is what I've worked all my life to achieve. Instead, we just want you to open your mind that now having the MD or being a nurse practitioner, a PA, a nurse, yes, you achieved one goal, but what other goals do you have? What other dreams do you have that you can fulfill? And how could that benefit your life and provide some mental ease there?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I don't think we can overstate how important not being as reliant on our medical jobs can really aid in our overall well-being. There's something about having the ability to walk away. There's something about having options. There's something about knowing that you could switch or make a change or that you're going to be okay. So I think there's some baseline level of financial security that most of us crave and need. But once that baseline level of security is there, everything else can sort of be thought of as optional. Saying this in the mind frame of whenever I'm at the urgent care and let's say, the patients are stressing me out or I feel like they're working me too hard, I'm like, y'all, I'm about to quit. They all start laughing, but then the directors, they get real antsy because they know it's true, right? Dr. Taylor don't have to be here. She already got another job. Hey, let's keep her happy now. She gonna walk away, right? And then gives me a little bit more bargaining power, right? They try not to do too much, to stress me out too much. They want to keep me there. But again, I'm saying that to say that they act that way because they know I have options, because I know that I can walk away. And I like that feeling of knowing I don't have to be here. And I think that that's a feeling that financial security provides. That's a feeling that having additional streams of revenue provides.
Definitely. When I think about starting these additional streams of income, everything takes a little bit of time. I had this conversation with my husband this morning, and I just reflected on one of the principles, I guess, of Christianity. And I think that this could be generalizable to like the universe, if you believe in a higher being, that they are outside the concept of time. And time, in my purview, is the most valuable asset that we have. Oftentimes we delay because, I don't have the time now. I don't have the money now. I don't have the expertise. But the thing about time is it's not waiting on you to have the money, the expertise, to have the time. You have to create time by prioritizing and starting early. And when I think about just how much starting my first business helped me to build the second business and the second stream of income by starting to invest independently, helped me to be more confident in how I'm investing and building upon my financial literacy. And it's mind blowing. Like when I say that, it's like, whoa. It's because I started decades ago, just making these small tweaks and shifts in my mindset that what we have today is possible. So when I think about investing in yourself, it's starting early, capturing the time and collapsing the time. Not only for you, yes, it's important to do it for you, but also for those in your family. because I invested in myself and because I started to build these businesses, even my failed businesses, y'all, like this is not my first business. You're going to learn all about streams of income. But even my failed businesses, they were a foundation for me to build upon. And I think that so often when we're thinking about investing in ourselves, we think about the success stories. And there's a lot of comparison there. Oh, if I can't do it like this, what's the point of even starting? But everyone has to start somewhere, and comparison is a thief of joy. And so if you want to achieve the same success that you dream about, that you see other people having right now, it means that you got to get started today, yesterday, and stop making excuses about not having the time, not having the money, not having the expertise, because it has compounding impact and time is your most valuable asset. So that's all that said. If you want to improve personally, invest in yourself personally, and invest in your finances, you got to start. And getting started early is going to have the greatest return on your investment.
Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes, a barrier to getting started earlier is waiting for things to change. Thinking, oh, when I get this done, then I'll start. When I do this, then I'll start. When I have this amount of money, then I'll do it. When I finally get here, when my kids reach this age, when I pay off my debt, when I do this, this, and this, then I'm going to invest in myself. Then I'm going to take the risk. And I was reading again today, this morning in my devotional. I'm Christian, so I try to read my Bible periodically. And one of the verses, Ecclesiastes, I think it's 11:4, one of the translations, I think it's the Living Bible translation, says, if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. And in the King James Version, it's about like a farmer who like waits for the wind to clear and never ends up planting a seed. And so again, it's the same concept of sometimes we're waiting for perfect conditions. We may not view it that way, but that's exactly what's happening. We're waiting for our life to be stable. We're waiting for us to have the money. We're waiting for us to get over some sickness or do this other thing or clean this other thing or whatever. And we're constantly procrastinating. Sometimes you just got to take a risk. It reminds me, especially us as two women physicians talking, it reminds me of these conversations that women have all the time about when is the best time to have kids. And I'll be honest and say that I've thought that myself, like, oh my gosh, I've frozen my eggs twice. I got my little babies on ice. They're on ice chilling. And I was, at my family's house and they're like, when are you gonna thaw them out? And I was like, I don't know, not right now. But again, it's like them reminding me, Leisha, you're not getting any younger, right? You're waiting for perfect conditions. You may end up delaying and then not being able to, have the amount of children that you want or whatever. And so I say all of this to say, divulging way too much personal information, that sometimes you just got to get started. You just got to make a commitment to yourself. And the best time to start is now. Start early, get started now, and to be consistent with that.
All right. Wow.
Let's get into our fun money segment. Brittany, what is something fun that you are doing with money?
Yeah, as I was reflecting on this, there are so many things that come to mind because we're recording this episode before Black Friday, and I just got my list. It's getting really long, Leisha. You all know I'm frugal. I often repair things before I try to purchase something else. So the jacket that I wear, I purchased in medical school. I've repaired the pockets a couple of times. KJ keeps asking me, Mommy, why is this broken? So I am investing in a few things. I am investing in a new coat. That's what I'm going to do for fun money. I'm going to buy myself some new boots because one pair of boots, which I might actually take to the shoe repair shop, gets a talking. Talking to me, take me to the repair shop or throw me away. That's what it say. So I'm going to buy some food and buy a few other things for myself. I'm making my Black Friday list. I'm checking out the deals and everything ahead of time so I can hopefully not be pulled in to spend more than anticipated.
So this is all for yourself, huh?
Oh, well, that's the fun money for
I'm
me.
sorry.
I have other things that I need to buy for my kiddos, and I typically don't buy them toys for Christmas. I typically don't buy them. I might buy them one toy. So yesterday we saw Santa. The kids told Santa that Brooke wants a talking unicorn and KJ wants another fire truck, which I don't think I'm going to buy. But audience, if you all are listening and you know anything about a talking unicorn, please let me know because I have not found one yet. So I'll buy that for the kid. Basically, I'm going to buy things for myself. I try not to spend too much on Black Friday, and I typically don't buy people gifts. I usually buy them experiences. So I'm not doing much shopping, just to replace some things that are tattered in my closet.
I love that. I want to buy people experiences. It's just my experience is that the experiences that they want are out of my Christmas budget. And so I've had to get them material things. In terms of fun money, what I'm spending on myself, very similar. I was at the mall yesterday and I was actually looking for new cocktail dresses and a new pair of gold sandal type heels to wear because some of my favorite heels I have had for a very long time. And like you, the sole of the shoe is starting to lift a little bit. And I'm like, ooh, I need to replace that. And, I wanted more cocktail dresses. I realized I have work dresses. From my younger years, I had a lot of going out dresses, going to a lounge or something. But now I want like a good cocktail dress. If I'm going to a steakhouse or going to a fancy restaurant, I want to be able to wear a dress that looks like cute. It's a little sexy, but not too much. So that's what I've been looking for. And so that's something fun that I'm planning to do with my money.
Yay, I love that. Do you have any specific stores that you like to frequent?
I like Express. I was thought about asking you for stores, and then I realized that all your clothes are very, very expensive. So I was like, maybe you're not the person to ask. Yours are so stylish, but then I look at the price tags. I'm like, well, that's why.
Most of my clothes are hand-me-downs, also from my good friends, yes.
When you say hand-me-downs, my version of hand-me-downs are the hand-me-downs that I got as a kid, which was like clothes that should not have been handed down to anybody. They should have been thrown away. But when you have your hand-me-downs, they're like really nice, high-quality dresses that were never worn. And like your hand-me-downs are not given hand-me-down energy, okay?
My best friends, they have phenomenal taste in clothes. If you need some recommendations, you just gotta open up your mind and open up your wallet. They think about their attire, their appearance as an investment. And I can understand their approach, and I appreciate that they can hand it down to me and I can benefit from their investment.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, yes, thinking of investing in yourself, that is certainly one way to do it. And so thank you all for listening to this episode this week. Hopefully you found it enjoyable and found something that you could take away. As a reminder, we are having our Side Gigs Masterclass once more on Tuesday, January 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So feel free to register for that. We'll put the link in the show notes. And of course, we've got our group coaching program called Boost, which helps you make more money in your job and outside of your job. We'll put the link in the show notes for there on how you can sign up.
Hello, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And because of that, we have something for you, our Wealthy Minds Blueprint.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish I could be better with money? Do you want to start investing and saving for retirement, but keep delaying because you don't know where to start? Our Wealthy Minds Blueprint is here to help.
This guide will teach you what you didn't learn in your training, so you can stop being confused about money and start taking what we call wealthy-minded action.
We'll help you become a master of your finances and simplify investing so you can get started today. Take control of your financial future by downloading your free copy of the Wealthy Minds Blueprint now and start building the wealth you deserve.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Brooke. I'm recording a little disclaimer for my mommy, Dr. Brittany Halford, and her friend, Dr. Lisa Taylor. Just so you know, they're not financial advisors, tax professionals, lawyers, or financial planners. Everything you hear is for education and entertainment. It's not strict financial advice, So use your best judgment, chat with a tax professional, and all those other people that you need to talk to. Thanks for tuning in today. Keep cruising on your journey to wealth and wellness. Bye-bye.
One of the most important things you can do is ensure you have long-term disability insurance. Long-term disability insurance secures your income if the unexpected happens and you are unable to work due to medical illness, chronic conditions, or an accident.
Unfortunately, all insurance agents aren't created equal. Some of them are so focused on making a sale that they fail to reveal certain necessary information, tell you about discounts available, or clearly explain the process. Pradeep Bhato and his team at PKA Insurance Group are different. They have a reputation of putting people over profits and always doing what's best.
If you need life insurance or disability insurance, reach out to Pradeep and his team today. They will help you get the insurance you need with the service you deserve.